Welcome, everyone, to our exploration of the descriptive research strategy. I am Jenna, the AI assistant, who is hosting the Week 6 collaboration session. Today, we are diving deep into one of the fundamental approaches to research within the social and behavioral sciences, descriptive research. This strategy plays a crucial role in the early stages of research, allowing us to gain insights into the characteristics of a particular phenomenon or population. By the end of this lecture, you will have a solid understanding of descriptive research, why it is important, and how to effectively apply it in your studies. Why does descriptive research matter? Descriptive research is the starting point of almost every scientific inquiry. It aims to systematically describe a situation or phenomenon, providing a clear picture of what is happening. Whether you are interested in understanding student study habits, consumer preferences, or even the behaviors of animals in the wild, descriptive research is an invaluable tool for laying the groundwork for more complex, explanatory research. The primary purpose of descriptive research is to paint a picture of how things are at a specific point in time. Unlike experimental research, which attempts to uncover causal relationships, descriptive research is concerned with answering the what, where, when, and how questions. This lecture will explore the key elements of descriptive research, including observation, surveys, and case studies, as well as provide practical examples and guidelines to help you understand how these methods can be effectively utilized. What is the nature of descriptive research? To begin, it is important to understand what sets descriptive research apart from other types of research. Descriptive research is non-experimental, which means it does not manipulate variables to determine cause and effect. Instead, it seeks to describe the characteristics or behaviors of a particular population, event, or condition. This approach allows researchers to collect quantitative or qualitative data, depending on the research question. For instance, a descriptive study might examine how frequently people engage in a specific activity, such as exercising or using social media. The researcher would collect data through surveys, observations, or archival records to summarize and quantify the behaviors or attitudes of the group. The key methods of descriptive research are: descriptive research relies on several methods, each of which has its own advantages and limitations. Let's take a look at the three primary methods used in descriptive research. 1. Observational studies. Observation is one of the oldest and most effective ways to collect descriptive data. In an observational study, the researcher carefully observes subjects and records the relevant information without interfering. Observational studies can be conducted in either a natural or a controlled environment. Naturalistic observation. In naturalistic observation, the researcher observes subjects in their natural environment, making no attempt to manipulate or control the setting. This approach is especially useful when studying behaviors that may be altered by the presence of a researcher or laboratory conditions. For instance, observing children at a playground provides valuable insights into their social interactions, play behaviors, and conflict resolution strategies. Controlled observation. On the other hand, controlled observation involves observing behaviors in a setting designed or arranged by the researcher. For example, a psychologist might create a laboratory environment that simulates a real-life scenario to better observe participants' reactions. Controlled observations allow for more consistency, but they may introduce some artificial elements that could impact the findings. 2. Surveys and questionnaires. Surveys are another powerful tool for descriptive research, especially when a researcher needs to gather data from a large number of people. Surveys can take many forms, such as online questionnaires, telephone interviews, or face-to-face interactions. Designing effective surveys. Designing an effective survey is crucial to ensure the accuracy and reliability of the collected data. Researchers must carefully craft questions to avoid biases and ensure that respondents can provide meaningful answers. The wording, order, and format of questions can greatly influence how participants respond, so attention to detail is key. Types of questions. Surveys typically include both open-ended and closed-ended questions. Closed-ended questions, e.g., yes/no, multiple choice, are easier to quantify, while open-ended questions provide richer, more detailed responses. For instance, a survey on consumer satisfaction might include both types: how satisfied are you with our product? Closed-ended, and what would you like to see improved? Open-ended. 3. Case studies. Case studies are another common method in descriptive research, involving an in-depth analysis of an individual, group, or event. This approach is especially valuable for exploring rare or unique situations. Case studies allow researchers to gather comprehensive information through interviews, observations, and document analysis. Applications of case studies. A well-known example of a case study is the research conducted on Phineas Gage, a railroad worker who survived a severe brain injury in the 19th century. By studying Gage's case, researchers were able to learn about the relationship between brain injury and personality changes, providing valuable insights into neuropsychology. Strengths and limitations. Case studies provide rich qualitative data and deep insights, but they are limited by their lack of generalizability. Because they focus on a single subject or small group, their findings cannot always be extended to the larger population. However, they are incredibly useful for generating hypotheses that can be tested in future research. Now let us look at sampling in descriptive research. An important aspect of descriptive research is selecting a sample that accurately represents the population being studied. Sampling methods can be broadly categorized into probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability sampling. In probability sampling, every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. This method includes techniques like random sampling and systematic sampling, which help reduce bias and increase the likelihood that the results can be generalized to the broader population. Non-probability sampling. In contrast, non-probability sampling involves selecting participants based on convenience or specific characteristics. While this method is easier and less costly, it can introduce bias and limit the generalizability of the findings. How about the practical applications of descriptive research? Descriptive research is used in a wide variety of fields. In psychology, for example, it helps researchers understand the prevalence of mental health conditions and their impact on different demographic groups. In education, descriptive research can be used to evaluate student performance or the effectiveness of teaching methods. Consider an educational study that aims to describe the reading habits of middle school students. Researchers might conduct surveys to gather information on how often students read for pleasure, observe reading behaviors in classrooms, and conduct case studies on particularly avid or reluctant readers. The findings could then be used to improve literacy programs and encourage more effective reading habits among students. Now let us consider the advantages and disadvantages of descriptive research. The advantages include the following. Flexibility. Descriptive research can use a wide range of data collection techniques, allowing researchers to tailor their methods to suit their specific needs. Real-world relevance. Because descriptive research often involves studying subjects in their natural environment, it provides a realistic and detailed picture of what is happening. Foundation for further research. Descriptive research often serves as a foundation for future research by generating hypotheses and identifying variables of interest for experimental or correlational studies. The disadvantages include the following. Cannot determine causality. One of the key limitations of descriptive research is that it cannot establish causal relationships between variables. Potential for bias. Observational studies and surveys can be prone to bias, such as observer bias or response bias, which may affect the validity of the data. Generalizability issues. The findings of descriptive research are often limited to the specific sample or context studied, which may not be representative of the broader population. What about the ethical considerations in descriptive research? Ethics are a critical aspect of all research, and descriptive research is no exception. Researchers must ensure that participants' privacy is protected, especially when observational methods are used. Informed consent is essential, particularly when dealing with vulnerable populations or sensitive topics. For example, in an observational study conducted in a public space, researchers must ensure that individuals are not identifiable, and any data collected should be anonymized. Similarly, survey research must be conducted in a way that ensures confidentiality and minimizes the risk of psychological harm to participants. What about descriptive research and its application to technology? The advent of technology has greatly influenced how descriptive research is conducted. Online surveys, for example, have made data collection faster and more efficient, allowing researchers to reach large and diverse populations with relative ease. Social media platforms also provide a rich source of data for observational studies, as researchers can analyze posts, comments, and user interactions to gain insights into behaviors and attitudes. Big data in descriptive research. The rise of big data has expanded the scope of descriptive research. Researchers can now analyze vast amounts of data from sources such as social media, transaction records, and wearable devices to describe patterns and trends that were previously impossible to study. Now let us consider descriptive research when it comes to designing a research study. When designing a descriptive research study, it is essential to clearly define the research question and identify the most appropriate methods for data collection. The choice of method, whether it is observation, survey, or case study, will depend on the research objectives and the type of data needed. Formulating research questions. A good descriptive research question should be specific, measurable, and focused on describing a particular characteristic or phenomenon. For example, what are the most common reasons for job dissatisfaction among remote workers? Is a well-defined research question that can be addressed using descriptive methods. Data collection and analysis. Once the research question and method are determined, the next step is to collect and analyze the data. Data analysis in descriptive research typically involves summarizing data using measures of central tendency, e.g., mean, median, mode, and dispersion, e.g., range, standard deviation. Visualization tools, such as charts and graphs, can also be used to effectively communicate the findings. What are some common pitfalls in descriptive research? While descriptive research is relatively straightforward, there are several common pitfalls that researchers should be aware of. Bias in observations or survey responses. Observational studies may be affected by the observer's subjective interpretation of events. Similarly, survey responses can be influenced by how questions are framed, leading to response bias. Overgeneralization. Descriptive research is often limited to a specific group or context. Researchers should be cautious not to overgeneralize the results to other populations without additional evidence. Misinterpretation of correlations. It is important to remember that descriptive research cannot determine causation. Researchers may be tempted to interpret correlations between variables as evidence of cause and effect, which can lead to incorrect conclusions. Here are some real-world examples. Descriptive research in action. To illustrate how descriptive research is used in practice, let's consider a study on smartphone usage among college students. The researchers aim to describe how much time students spend on their phones each day, what activities they engage in, and how smartphone usage affects their academic performance. Methodology. The researchers use a combination of observational methods and surveys to collect data. They observe students in public areas of the campus to gather data on usage patterns and distribute an online questionnaire to collect self-reported data on smartphone activities and perceived impacts on academic performance. Findings. The results indicate that students spend an average of 4 hours per day on their phones, with the most common activities being social media browsing and messaging. Students who report higher smartphone usage also indicate lower levels of academic productivity, though the study cannot determine whether the smartphone usage causes this decrease or if other factors are involved. To conclude this Collaborate session, descriptive research is a vital tool in the researcher's toolkit, providing a foundation for understanding the characteristics and behaviors of a population or phenomenon. Whether through observation, surveys, or case studies, descriptive research allows us to capture a snapshot of reality, laying the groundwork for future explanatory or experimental studies. By understanding the strengths and limitations of descriptive research, researchers can make informed decisions about when and how to use this strategy effectively. Remember, descriptive research is about exploring the what and how without delving into the why. It is the first step in understanding a topic, providing the information needed to formulate hypotheses and design more rigorous investigations. Thank you for your attention, and I hope this exploration of descriptive research has provided you with the tools and insights you need to apply this strategy effectively in your own work. Remember, the key to successful descriptive research lies in careful planning, ethical considerations, and a clear focus on the research question. Happy researching! Please join us next week for Collaborate Session 7. Have a great day.